Hello everyone, I am Eldritch, and today I have something very cool to show you. So it's this wither cage, which is one of the easiest wither cages to build up while having also some of the best features out of any wither cage that I have seen. So the first wither cage that I know of didn't require any bedrock was shown by ilmango less than a year ago, but there were a lot of clunky things in that design, and over time other designs have come out. But today I'm going to take the most comprehensive look at how we can upgrade a wither cage so that it's not only safe to operate but also quick and easy to build. So I won't delay any further. Let's see how this thing works. The biggest change that I've added is this witch here. When I began to research wither cages myself, I wanted to create a cage that would never break even if it was unloaded and loaded again. I was unfortunately not able to accomplish that goal, but I will discuss some of the things that I did to try to reach that at the end of this video if anyone else is curious. I'm not convinced that it's impossible, but if it is possible, it's far more complex than I at first imagined. However, with the help of this one witch, we can get the very next best thing. So the main witherhead has a 1 in 1,000 chance to shoot a blue skull, which will destroy any blocks, even obsidian or this ender chest. Obviously, we don't want the wither's main head to shoot if we can avoid it, which is a good thing because with the help of this switch here, by swapping the iron golems around, that's exactly what we accomplish. So right there, the wither's main head is shooting, and now it's not, because the wither's main head is focused on only one golem. I'm using golems because they're very easy to place in, but you could use any other mob that you wanted. You could figure out the right Y level so that way the wither could see them. We can't control which golem the wither is targeting at any given time, because if the server unloads or if I leave the game, it's going to basically forget which golem it was shooting at. But what we can do is detect that the wither is shooting with its main head. And we do that with this witch you might have seen in that last clip. The witch is actually taking damage when the main head shoots because the position is just lined up perfectly. The witch is then launched up and hits a string which is hidden inside of this glass, and that string is going to send an update through this machine and basically one tick pulse these pistons, swapping which golem is currently able to be seen by the wither. The main head is able to shoot the witch, but the side heads are too low to be able to do that. So that's how this machine works. It's actually quite simple to build up and quite easy to understand. This means that the cage is not perfect, but it also means that the only time it can actually break is the one wither skull that is shot right there to damage the wither and swap the golems. So that's a 1 in 1,000 chance to actually break any blocks, and that's so rare that it probably won't ever happen to you, and if it does, you can easily see it and fix it while the wither's distracted. And also, since the witch is standing on this slab, she will hopefully be safe if one blue wither skull shoots, so that way you won't have to go find yourself a new witch every single time that does happen, if it ever does. Now, the reason that I'm using a witch is because witches are the only hostile mob that I know of that is able to automatically heal itself besides the wither himself. You probably couldn't build a wither cage using another wither. That would be a complex process, but the witch works fine. If you wanted to, you could use any other mob like villager or even like armor stands. How you would use armor stands is that you can't detect them being launched back because they don't take knockback, but an armor stand would be broken, so that way if you just had a tripwire hook and then there's no armor stand, no entity in the tripwire hook, then you could just dispense another armor stand. I initially wanted to use armor stands for this system because armor stands are a lot easier to get than trapping a witch, but for some reason when the wither destroys an armor stand, the armor stand actually doesn't drop as an entity, so it wouldn't be reusable, and that's why I decided to use a witch, because that way the system is 100% AFK. Even if you left and came back 100 times, you wouldn't ever have to restock it with any armor stands. However, you probably won't be loading and unloading the wither cage that often, so an armor stand would be a fine choice as well. I just wanted to make this design as reusable as possible, so that's why I used a witch. This iron golem wither cage is also an original design, so I will now have a tutorial of me building the entire cage. So first we're going to have our hopper output, so that'll be just these hoppers. And then we'll put the fence gates to hold the wither in place right now. If you want to know where the wither is, these 4 glass blocks represent where the wither is going to break blocks. So these blocks and then all of the blocks in a 3x3 around that. So things went south while trying to build this the first time in the tutorial. It's actually not dangerous to build up. It's just that I did a couple of dumb things. So I'm going to actually show that so that you don't make those same mistakes. But basically, I'm going to re-record the tutorial here. If you wanted to output into this obsidian block, do that. If not, figure out how you're going to take your hoppers out of here and then place one hopper in the middle. That's where our wither is going to stand on. You could also use a solid block if you wanted to use walls instead of fence gates for your block to trap the wither in. However, I'm going to use fence gates because that lets me use a hopper here in the middle instead of having to use another hopper minecart. Now that we've got this set up, we won't spawn the wither in for a little while. So the next thing we're going to do is actually put the iron golems in, or at least build up the section to hold the iron golems. So we're going to want to build a 3x3 square like this on one of the sides. It can be really any side. The system is not directional. And then build this window up here at the top, and then we can just take an ender chest and put that in there. Now I'm going to extend this out 2 more blocks. You could leave it 1 thick. However, I would recommend making it slightly thicker because even though the blue skulls are very rare and the witch system is going to make them extremely rare, it's not so rare that you don't want to spend an extra 20 seconds to save you the trouble of having to catch a whole other wither. So just make that a few blocks thick and then come out 2 blocks from the bottom down and then 2 blocks in this direction, and we can place a piston on top of there. And then 1 block in between and another piston. And then on top of those pistons, we're going to want to put stonecutters. And stonecutters are just slightly taller than slabs, and that ends up being the exact correct height so that the wither can see through this tiny little gap here and get aggroed on the iron golems. So that's why we're using stonecutters. And then once you get your stonecutters in, you want to just go 1 below the ender chest. It is important that it's that Y level, so that way the golems can't get out, and also the wither's vision isn't blocked. And just create a ring around it like this with 1 there. Now, once you've done that, we can basically hook up the redstone. It's very simple. You're just going to need some blocks, place block on the side of the piston, not 1 below. I made that mistake earlier as well. And then just take redstone and put it on here. Then you're going to want to go out 2 out from here and then place redstone on there. This is actually dependent on how thick this wall is. So if you make this thicker or thinner, then you're going to have to slightly change this wiring up. But that's fine. It is very simple to understand, I hope. So if you are having difficulties, just think about the circuit a little bit and maybe leave a comment asking for help. So then we're just going to create a 6 high staircase like this and put redstone on all of those except 1. This one should also be a repeater. Let me fix that. So we have a repeater here, and that repeater is basically going to preserve the 0-tick pulse that these pistons will receive. And here we need to actually generate the 0-tick pulse, so we put a repeater there, a piston, and then another repeater here, and that actually is just enough to do it. So now, when this is powered, it will power this repeater for just a tiny second. You saw that flash, and that actually spits out the blocks from the pistons. Now we're actually going to get the witch's cage in, so we need 4 blocks of glass here, 4 blocks of glass here, 4 blocks of glass here, and this block here actually has to be a observer. So we get an observer there, note block, and a sticky piston. And basically what this will do is every other time that we observe a change, it will send an update through to these pistons and spit out the block. And what that's going to do is when the witch enters the tripwire, that's one update. And when the witch exits the tripwire, that's another update. So that's why we need to have 2 update, or only every second update actually update the pistons there. And we just achieve that by spitting out this redstone block. So there it's up, we don't send an update. There it's down, we do send an update. Okay, now we're going to want to put 3 blocks here, and that's to shield the witch from damage. 3 blocks here, and blocks up like that. Then we need a slab at the bottom here. Then the witch is going to be standing like this. So that means that if we put the tripwire at this Y level, it would always be down. So that's not good. So then you're going to get launched up like this, and we want the tripwire in front of the observer. I guess that's why the observer is at that level. And so when you do that, you should see these fire. And now it's time to actually put the witch in there. So if you're in survival mode, you're going to have to go and actually find yourself a witch somehow. But fortunately, I'm in creative. I can just spawn one in. If you are in survival, just take a boat, take a minecart, and put the witch up here. And I would recommend that you do the witch before you do the iron golems, and before you do the wither especially, because the witch before the wither makes it an extremely easy process, and I'll show that later on during the tutorial. So now we got the witch in place, we can just summon in our iron golems. Block there. Just create iron golems. This is actually why I use iron golems. They're very easy to place, and they have a lot of health, so that way if somehow one of them gets hit by something, then they should be able to survive it. And you can actually also heal them using regular iron ingots, so you could maintain them, I guess. And with that, we've got actually most of the systems in place for this. Believe it or not, we actually are ready to add the wither almost. So to do that, first I'm going to build a little platform here, so that way I can go into survival mode safely. I'm also going to get some slabs. We need a slab here on the upper half of that block. We also need a slab here on the lower half of this block. And then we need 2 walls there and there. And so what this is going to do is the wither is 3.5 blocks tall, and so we can fit just into there. And then this slab is actually, it's going to be deleted too, but we can actually place in a boat into this slab, and it'll actually glitch through this other slab. So that way we can place in the boat without having to dig out this slab beforehand. Before I figured out this trick, I was having a lot of problems with the wither escaping the trap. This makes it basically 100%. And we need 2 blocks to create a roof, and actually it's a good idea to just fully thicken out the roof, because the witch will actually take damage from the wither explosion, and if you have a proper roof and protection, the witch will actually only take about half a heart of damage. But if you don't, the witch can actually die just from the initial explosion. So it's very important that you put these blocks here. So that should be enough. The witch should now be protected from damage. And this is actually everything you need to put the wither into the actual cage. As long as you have the golems over here and you have your redstone properly set up. So I would just test that once to make sure that it indeed does swap which golem is on top. And then the witch is here. the witch will actually make it super easy to do. So let me go into survival. I'm going to go into survival and build up the wither here so we can see just how easy that is to do. So the very important thing that you cannot forget to do is to waterlog this slab here. That just basically prevents the wither from destroying the cage that we've built up. If you forget that, a lot of bad things are going to happen. So basically, make sure that you waterlog this slab. So right there, that's good. Now I'm in survival. I have no armor, but as you can see, this is actually not dangerous at all. I'm only going to take about half a heart of damage, and then don't expose yourself. Okay, that's a mistake that I made last time. Don't show yourself to the wither beforehand, because while the witch is swapping the golems, he's going to choose a new target, and if you come out too early, that new target could be you. But now everything should be fine. The wither is distracted by one of the golems, and the other golem is down there, and basically everything has worked. So as you can see, he's just shooting at the wall, but only with his side heads. And we can actually come in here and now put in the boat. So like I said, this boat goes on this slab, but if you have it set up like this, it can actually glitch through this slab like that. If it doesn't work the first time, just try a couple other times and it'll work eventually. And then we can actually place this lantern here, because the lantern is actually slightly less than a full block tall. So Ilmango had problems. He had to put like 8 boats stacked on top of each other because he didn't know or remember that a lantern is actually slightly less tall than a block. So you can actually get away with just using 1 boat here. And I'm going to go back into creative mode. You can actually walk around in here. It's totally safe. The wither's not going to hurt you. Even if you stand inside of him like this, you're safe. So basically everything else that I'm about to do, you can definitely do in survival mode. I'm going to remove this back wall for now. You can take away the boat is safely on top of the wither, so you can take away the boat, or not the boat, leave the boat, take away the slab that the boat is on. And you're also going to want to take away these 3 blocks here. And this slab here, you want to make sure you don't hit the boat. So I think I'm good here. Yeah, you can press F3 and B to open up this hitboxes, because that's very useful. And then you're going to want to seal off the back here like that. So that way the boat just can't fall off the wither's head now. So the boat's in place, the wither's in place. We're basically almost done, but there's a couple of other things that you might want to do. One of those is getting hopper minecarts into these fence gates. This is pretty easy for these 3 because the wither, as you can see, is actually not walking into these. I'm still going to place the fence gates there because sometimes he kind of moves to the side and it's annoying to push him back. But this front one is actually the one that is most difficult, because the skulls are constantly shooting here and basically breaking everything you do. And if I actually opened this fence gate, then the wither would actually leave his basically trap that we've set for him and be able to get out, and then nothing's basically set up for that, and you can't get him back, or it'd be hard to get him back. You might be able to do something with pistons, but basically if that happens, you've basically lost. So don't let him escape. Make sure you place the fence gate above before you place remove the one below. And now we're basically going to want to put a minecart here like this. There, break that. And now we can get a piston and a button. And as you can see, even in survival, this isn't too bad. You're just gonna make sure that you are quick, because, wow, I actually did it first try. Okay. Usually that takes a few tries because it's quite small, the window of opportunity that you have. It's the same process for the other sides, but obviously less worrisome, because if you can't mess these up, whereas you can mess that side up. So once you've gotten this far, you're basically good. There. See the wither, if you leave the piston there for too long, the wither is going to break it, and it's a very small window of time that you have for the front. But here we're fine, just there. And you can repeat this process for the other sides. And there you go. Now you have the entire area of this blast chamber, basically, or this wither cage, ready to pick up items. So even if you throw on top of the fence gate or in the middle, it's all going to be picked up by hoppers and come out at your desired location. So any of these hoppers could really be the output. And if you wanted to, say you're going to have items coming in on this side, you can just put regular hoppers there too. That's not a big issue if this was open. But there you have it. That's the full wither cage. If you follow these instructions, make sure that your witch is there before you put the wither in. Make sure this piston is set up correctly. I had that issue. Make sure you don't punch the wither. In survival, he's going to kill you. And make sure also that you wait after you summon him. Wait a few seconds so that way he can re-aggro onto the other iron golem. So that way he doesn't attack you and kill you. And that should be everything to actually build up this wither cage. So hopefully you can use this, and that is the end of the tutorial. And just to demonstrate, if I try to log out here, the wither's going to lose his target, but then I come back and witch gets hit and the golem switch. So everything works. The wither's still trapped in here, and you can open these up or close them off, I suppose, as you see fit. And I would just remember to, even though it's very unlikely to happen, make sure you don't let this get blown up by a blue wither skull, because of course it's the wither. You don't want him loose in your world. That's the end of the tutorial. And something actually I forgot to mention is that if there's any other mobs that the wither could see, like those mobs over there, we want to make sure that he's going to focus on our golems in our cage. So I'm just going to quickly block this up like this, and now he won't be able to see them. There's actually nothing to fear about him as long as you summon him correctly and put the water. So there's the water. Now I can just come back. I'm not wearing any armor, and as you can see, I'm only going to take about half a heart of damage. And he's already angry at the golems. And basically the witch died because my roof here is not sufficient. So you can cover up these blocks. You can cover up these blocks. And that is why you put the water. Oh, no, it's fine. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I guess the best feature about this wither cage is that you can log out of your world and log back in. And he's going to this not. Oh. Okay, that is the tutorial done. If you're not one of my 10 loyal fans that are watching this in the future, you can probably even watch me create a nether portal obsidian farm using 2 of these cages next to each other. So check that out if you're interested. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about my ambitious goal, which was creating a perfect wither cage that doesn't even have a 1 in 1,000 chance to break because of a blue skull. Basically, my idea is this. The blue skulls destroy everything, but that isn't necessarily an issue if we just expect blue skulls to happen. So rather than trying to avoid blue skulls and just placing obsidian everywhere, we can just account for the blue skulls and account for that in the design itself. One machine that I remember being entranced with when I was just starting this game was a cobblestone generator, especially designs that output a row of cobblestone instead of being static. But instead of using the cobblestone generator for cobblestone, I thought it could be possible to use that cobblestone as a barrier between the skulls and whatever the wither is shooting. I already saw from the cage that I created that the wither is inaccurate, although you can't create a cobblestone ender chest, so that wouldn't work. But you can actually get him to miss almost every single shot still by carefully aligning blocks with his line of sight, so that it just barely passes the block. So for example, if I had a wither here, and he was trying to shoot at a snowman standing on this block, he can hardly fit his skulls through this, and it will almost always deflect the skulls. And I'm basically simulating a cobblestone generator that would just constantly push cobblestone up from the bottom with this bedrock here. So the bedrock would actually be a cobblestone generator in the final version of this, assuming this was the valid design. But as you can see, I tested many designs with many different variations in where the bedrock is placed. Some of them, for some reason, affected each other, so I put barriers in between. I tried using some that were very close to the wither and below him, some that were very far away, and there's just like a paper thin gap between this block and this block, but nothing seemed to work. Some came very close to functioning though. For example, some of my designs, I had to place many copies of them and take warp for like 2 or 3 hours before one of the snow golems would perish. So then I thought, okay, snow golems won't work. What if I just account for a very small number of skulls getting through, but use a witch instead, because the witch will passively heal itself? And that's where I actually got the idea of using the witch for the detector, which I actually built in the tutorial. And that was good because then I was actually able to build up something that worked. So this here was actually able to tick warp for like 20 to 30 hours, and it didn't actually break from the tip warp, so it might have actually even functioned longer than that. However, I logged out and logged back in, and then somehow the wither escaped while I wasn't paying attention. So either I did something wrong in containing him, or somehow something messed up. But I still think that this is a valid potential strategy for containing a wither. However, I had already spent many hours on it and had basically nothing to show for it. And so that's why I decided to make something more practical, which is the wither cage that I showed earlier in this video. However, the reason why I started this whole project was that I didn't want to live in a timeline where perfect bedrockless wither cages are not possible. So if someone else is interested in that too, I hope I've explained my thoughts and the concepts I was trying to use to create one. Other ideas involved making the wither see and not see a mob quickly, but this led to the main head basically always shooting skulls, so I don't think that would work. Basically, just using some simple cobblestone generators, I was able to make something that was almost perfect until for some reason I logged out. Anyway, that is all for this video. If you made it this far, I hope you can use these ideas to create something of your own, as I think wither cages are really cool technology that are falling out of favor for TNT blast chambers, despite being legit and infinite block breakers. Thank you for watching. My name is Eldritch, and I will see you in the next video.